My humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Lord. Dear brothers and sisters, a warm welcome to you all. I have the pleasure tonight of introducing Sister Geeta Mohan Ram. Geeta comes from a family of devotees that has been in Swami's service for more than 6 decades. Her granduncle, Sheshagiri Rao, was Swami's personal attendant for more than 20 years. He was also the first priest at Prashanti Nilayam when it was built in 1950. He came to Swami in 1943. Her father, Dr. Padmanabhan, served Swami in various organizational capacities at Whitefield, Bangalore till 2008. Her mother, Mrs. Kamala Padmanabhan, was appointed by Swami to be an SSC coordinator for Karnataka state in India, where she served for 25 years. She was also chosen by Swami to be part of the first group that developed the SSC curriculum under Swami's guidance. Geeta's family was also amongst the first few families that started the Akhanda Bhajan in 1945 under Swami's guidance. They conducted this for 25 years until Swami declared it a global event. Geeta has had incredible good fortune of enjoying and experiencing the multifaceted personality of our Divine Lord from birth. While Swami graced their home in Vrindavan many a time, she also spent a lot of time in Puttaparthi. At the age of 15, Geeta was selected by Swami to be an SSC teacher and in addition delivered lectures under Education in Human Values program to high school teachers throughout the state of Karnataka, India. As a SSC presenter myself, I know how daunting this can be, especially at such a young age training experienced teacher. In the late 1980s, Swami directed Geeta and her husband to go to the USA and they settled in Maryland, Washington, D.C., where they still live. Geeta was also chosen by Swami in 2005 to speak on Ladies' Day in his divine presence in Prashanti Nilayam. On a personal note, I meet Geeta from time to time in Prashanti Nilayam. She is genuinely a very humble lady, warm and friendly, always with a smile on her face. A very humble devotee of Swami, tirelessly carrying out his work and sharing his message and inspiring us all to follow his teachings. We are very grateful, Geeta, that you have taken time off your busy schedule and kindly agreed to share your insights and experiences on Avatar Declaration Day with the devotees of New Zealand. Sister Geeta will be speaking on the topic Swami as an avatar. I'm sure everyone is eagerly waiting to hear you. Over to you, Sister Geeta.
Sairam, Preeni, thank you for your kind introduction. Sairam to all the brothers and sisters of New Zealand, and my pranams at the beloved feet of our Swami. Having said that, I want to say Sairam from across the oceans from the USA, and I hope you're all doing well and enjoying the Avatar Day, Avatar Declaration Day in New Zealand. I am very, very honored really to speak about Swami, our beloved Swami, as this beautiful avatar that we have all had the good fortune or most of us at least have had the good fortune to see him. If we haven't had the chance to see him, we have certainly heard his voice through his discourses and through Radio Sai Global Harmony, or in so many other ways. We have all connected to him from our own place, wherever we are, whether we are in India, we are in America, we are in New Zealand, or in Australia. When we talk about an avatar, Swami says an avatar is the greatest, the highest Atmic energy that comes down, descends down to our plane, where we can understand this fabulous, powerful energy that pervades all of the universes. But that avatar, that energy comes down as an avatar so that he can be with us, talk to us, look like us, and sound like us, so that from him or her, we can learn how to really be a good human being. Because Swami also says, the human birth is the gem of all the births, because it is through this birth that we can realize our true reality. So when Swami descended to come down to our level, Swami also has said that all avatars, when they come, especially Purna avatars, or the avatars which have 16 qualities, when they come, there's always some extraordinary thing that happens. The avatars choose their own parents, unlike us. The avatars, when they come down and take birth in a human form, extraordinary things happen at the time of birth. They are born with supernatural powers. They're able to control all the elements, and they're able, but with their will, instantly change anything according to what they want. And also, they're not restricted by that human form which they have taken. They can go beyond that human form and be in two places at the same time, or several places at the same time. These are some of the extraordinary qualities that an avatar has. And along with that, of course, if we are talking about the actual 16 qualities, they say even in our scriptures, that the 16 qualities, they have complete control over the karmendriyas, all of our organs of action, our jnanendriyas, our organs of our taste, smell, space, all of that, they are able to be in control of all the panchabhutas, the fire, the water, all of those things. And of course, the greatest 16th quality, they have omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience. So this is some of the description when we talk about an avatar. And it sounds amazing. But to me, it was something that I saw from my own childhood. These amazing qualities that we are talking about, he's omniscient, he's omnipotent, he's sarvantaryami, he's everywhere. I was really very, very fortunate to be born into a family that came to Swami long before I was born. They came to Swami in 1943. And I grew up as a child listening to my elders telling us stories of the extraordinary things they had witnessed of Swami, who was a young boy when they went to him in 1943. So today I thought I would share some of my experiences which relate to some of the qualities that I just talked about in the beginning. So I thought today, one of the things that I wanted to share, which was extraordinary, I mean, I have seen several such things in my childhood, but one thing that happened to me when I first came to the US, I thought I would share with you, because one of the qualities of an avatar is to be able to control the 5 elements, the water, the air, the space, the fire, and the earth. These are 5 elements, and he is able to control. And we grew up saying Swami is omnipotent. He can do anything he wants. And I have seen that as a child. But when I came to the US in the 80s, after a couple of years having lived here in the US, my children were young. My husband was working for NASA. Swami kept asking my parents, did Geeta buy a house there yet? Did Geeta buy a house there yet? And we really didn't want to, because we really wanted to spend a couple of years or a few years here and come back to India to his divine presence. We really didn't want to stay here in the US. He had asked us to leave India and go to the US, but I had begged him and said, Swami, I really don't want to leave you and go. So he said, go and try for 5 years. I'll tell you what to do. So in a very sweet way, he asked me. And once we came here, he kept asking my parents, did Geeta buy a house yet? So with a lot of, pestering from my parents, I must say, Swami is asking, you should buy a house. My husband and I, we decided, we bought a house. And it was extraordinary because I sent the plan of the house to my father, just the plan for him to see. And till such time, we had been living in an apartment, and in one of the small areas, I had kept Swami's picture and his altar and everything. So when I got the plan of the house, which we were going to buy, I had jokingly in that plan, I had written, this is the master bedroom, this is the children's bedroom. And then one of the rooms I said, finally, Swami gets a room, I had written, because we wanted to convert that room into our prayer room. My father, the letter arrived in Bangalore to my father, and he had not opened the letter. He was leaving for Parthi. He was backing up the car when the mailman gave him the letter. So he arrived there, and he had the letter in his pocket, and Swami came out in the veranda where my father was sitting, and he saw this letter sticking out of his pocket, and he pulled it out and said, oh, Geeta has written you a letter and you haven't even opened it, he asked my father. And he opened the letter, and out fell the little plan that I had sent. And Swami loudly, standing in the veranda, read out, oh, Geeta now has a room, the children have rooms, and guess what? I have a room now in America. Because I had written in that letter, Swami finally gets a room. So he joked, and anyway, my father called and told us that Swami had blessed the house. He had named it Sai Nivas, he said. And Swami was very happy we had bought a house. So we bought the house, and we moved in after we did a bhajan in the house. And it was barely a day or so, I was still getting used. The range that I was using in this new house was a little bit different from what I was used to in the apartment. There was boxes all over the house. We were still unpacking. My children were young. My husband had gone to work, and I was in the process of unpacking all the stuff in the kitchen. And I had cooked a small, simple meal because we were still unpacking. And this was an electric range. And as I was unpacking, I had turned off, after I had turned off the stove after I had finished cooking. It was still hot, I guess. And without realizing, as I unpacked, I put a plastic bowl, which I had unpacked, which I was about to put into the cabinet, on the stove. And as soon as I put it, the whole plastic bowl, which was quite big, caught fire, and the flames started. It was a new house. We had just moved in. The flames were coming quite high, and they were almost touching the cabinets on top of the stove. And the fire alarm in the house went off. There was a whole lot of noise. And my son, who was about 10 or 11 years old, called 911, which is our emergency number, and said, our house is on fire, is what he said to the police. And he gave me the phone, and the police said, go out of the house, go out of the house. Do you have young children? Take them and go out of the house, was the instructions I got. And I grabbed hold of my two sons. And as I was doing, the flames were really high. And I just grabbed the children and I said, Swami, Swami, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram. And as I started to say Sai Ram, the flame suddenly came down. And even though all the bowl had melted, the plastic had melted and was in the drain of the stove, the plastic was fully there, the flames just started to go down, and it just went off. And of course, I grabbed the children because the police had said, you have to come out. The firemen had said, you have to come out. I had barely come up to the door when the fire truck arrived. And they all came in. They said, why are you still inside the house? Come out. And there was some amount of smoke in the kitchen. They came in and they said, where is the fire? And they looked at the stove, and they could see that there was a whole lot of plastic which was melted, which had melted and in the drain part of the stove. And they looked at me and they said, how did you put it off? And I didn't know what to say. I said, it just went off. They said, no, it couldn't have possibly gone off. Did you use a fire extinguisher? But they couldn't see any chemicals around. And I said, no, I didn't use a fire. They said, did you try to pour water? Because that's really dangerous on plastic. I said, no, I didn't pour water. And I didn't know what to say to the fireman. And he said, well, whatever it is, this is a miracle, the fireman said. But because all the plastic is here, but the fire has gone off. He could see that the cabinets had little black soot on it, but they had not caught fire. And he said, anyway, he said, make sure you clean it out. Make sure you always keep a small fire extinguisher in the kitchen, he said. And after checking out the whole house to make sure everything was okay, he went off. Even the two firemen who had come left. The next day, I got a call from my father from India, and Swami had come to Vrindavan. And when my father went to darshan in Vrindavan, he said, Geeta kept on shouting, Sai Ram, Sai Ram. The higher the flames, the louder her voice. Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram. She was shouting, and the fire went off, said Swami. My parents who had no idea what had happened, because it was even barely 12 hours, I hadn't yet called to tell them what had happened. They said, Swami, what happened? And Swami described the whole incident as to how I had carelessly put a plastic bowl on a hot stove which had caught fire, and how my son had called 911, but they had come and they didn't understand how the fire had gone off. And he said, but she didn't tell the fireman that she called out my name, Swami said. So here we have, he's in control of all these elements around us, even though his physical form is 10,000 miles away, somewhere in Bangalore, Vrindavan, and I am here in Maryland, Laurel, Maryland, in the United States of America. He was able to control that fire way far away. But how did he do that? When I went later to India and I asked Swami, you really saved me from that fire that day. He said, no, you were saved because you called out with bhakti and shraddha, Swami said, with faith and devotion. So the avatar comes down with all these abilities to be amongst us. But if we want to connect to this avatar, this Bhagavan, this Lord, this beloved Lord of ours, we have to develop that faith and devotion within us. So I asked Swami, how do we strengthen our faith and devotion, Swami? Sometimes we move like a pendulum back and forth. Sometimes the doubts come. What do we do? So Swami said, yes, the doubts will come, but you must always be in the company of people who have faith and devotion. If you are constantly with people who have negative thoughts, who have doubts, who themselves are questioning everything, they will also move your mind back and forth. Your faith is like a small plant which is just growing from the seed. You have to nurture it with the good company, with Namasmarana, with the name of the Lord, as the water pouring down on this small little sapling. And then, of course, he said, you have to put the manure, the fertilizer. That everybody doesn't like it because it smells a little bit. You have to work with your hands. But that is the practicing of the Lord's message. That is the fertilizer. So, and you have to put the fence around the small sapling of good company, so that outside elements, outside bad thoughts don't come like the goats and the sheep come and eat the small sapling. You must protect the sapling of faith with a fence of good company, with the water of Namasmarana, the Lord's name, and also with the practice of his message, so that your faith strengthens. When you do that, your faith will strengthen, your devotion will strengthen, and with that, you can feel the presence of the Lord. Whenever you call him, he will be ready to come. And very jokingly, Swami said also that it is not my fault. Don't complain if you think I am not coming to you. You are the iron filings. If the iron filing has a lot of rust on it, it cannot be attracted to the magnet. So if you want to attract the magnet, you have to keep those iron filings clean. So that was one wonderful experience I had of this avatar whom we call with a lot of love as Swami, Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba. I could see as I called out his name, and as my children also kept chanting behind me, Swami, Swami, Sai Ram, Sai Ram, those tall flames just came down as though they were listening to some other command and just went off. So this was one wonderful experience I had in 1993 when we bought our house here in the US, and which was confirmed so sweetly by Swami on the following day to my parents. So this is something that I always remember whenever we have Avatar Day, Avatar Declaration Day. That Swami has told us that he's an avatar, but we can see all these qualities in our Swami in so many ways. One of the qualities, of course, of an avatar is daya, compassion. This is of the 16 qualities, the Lord is the most compassionate. I have seen Swami being one of the most compassionate Lord. I'm sure all the people who have gone to the various festivals in Puttaparthi have seen how Swami does the Narayan Seva. So many people are benefited. All the people who come and Swami gives away so that their livelihood, he has taken care of, given them auto rickshaws, so many things that we see in Prashanti Nilayam. Swami is full of compassion. But one particular incident that I love to narrate, and many of you may have heard if you have heard me speak in another place too, but I always like to sometimes repeat some of these experiences, because the more we remember it, the more we will also love Swami. One a particular incident that I remember when I talk about Swami's compassion and love and daya, Sarva Bhuta Daya, we say, he has love and compassion towards all beings, not just human beings, but all beings. When I was a little kid, when Swami used to come to Vrindavan, he used to come and visit our home regularly. He used to come every month almost for dinner, and we used to be very fortunate to be able to interact with Swami. Yeah, on one particular such visit, he used to spend quite a lot of time in Bangalore. He used to go only for the festivals to Parthi in those days of my childhood. So he used to be in Bangalore, and one particular summer when schools were closed for summer holidays, Swami suddenly, we all used to do all the work in Vrindavan. In those days, in the 60s, there were no Sevadal and those people. So all of us youngsters, my cousins and I, we used to take care of the building and sweep outside in the garden and take care of watering the plants. And Swami used to walk around and be with us and spend a lot of time with us. So suddenly, when the schools were closed, Swami said, let us all go for a holiday to Horsley Hills. So we went, Horsley Hills is in the border of Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh somewhere, I think. And Swami had a bungalow there, a British style house that had been given for Swami to stay when he went. So suddenly, summer holidays became very, very exciting. He said, we'll go with Swami, and that too, to travel with Swami was a very exciting experience. So Swami gave us the date and time, and everybody was ready. There were 6 or 7 cars, all ready to go off to Horsley Hills along with Swami. Swami was in his car, and a whole group of cars, 7 or 8 cars, left in a big group. We all went. We arrived in Horsley Hills. We spent 10 days there, the most beautiful 10 days. Swami would spend his time with us. He would give discourses in the morning. He would go for walks with us. Sometimes we had picnics outside there. So we had a very, very good time. But there was one problem there. There was a little bit of shortage of water. So there was drinking water, but so many of us were there, about 15 or 20 people. We all stayed in that house actually, in that bungalow that was there. Swami was also staying there. We were also staying there. And in this house, there was a little bit of shortage of water. So there used to be 2 buffaloes who used to go about 3 miles downhill from the place where we were staying. And they used to have huge, big drums, they call, like cauldrons tied on their backs on both sides. And somebody would go with these water buffaloes, and they would draw the water from the well there. And from the well, the water would be filled into those 2 drums, And these buffaloes would come back 3 miles again and fill a tank here in Swami's bungalow outside. So they would make 8 or 10 trips back and forth to this well all day long, going 3 miles, coming back 3 miles. They would go back and forth, and they would fill this tank with the water that they brought on their back. Now, this water was used for, of course, washing clothes and washing dishes and all that. Drinking water was separate, and these buffaloes were doing their job. None of us really worried about them, because we were happy with Swami. We were going to picnics with him. We were having a nice time. He was giving us this and that. And we were having a very nice holiday vacation with Swami. And the 10 days went by very quickly, as quick as one can imagine in such nice circumstances. And then the last day, the previous day, Swami said, everybody be ready tomorrow. And we'll be leaving around 6 o'clock in the morning, because it's a long drive back to Bangalore. So, of course, if anybody has gone with Swami, we know if Swami says 6 o'clock, we all better be there at 5:45 in the car, ready to leave. So everybody was packed and ready and sitting in the car. Swami came out and just about to get into the car. Just as he was about to get in, he stopped as he was sitting, and he didn't get in. He came out and suddenly started to walk to the back of the building in which we had all been staying. Immediately, everybody in the car started to say, oh my goodness, why is he going in the back? Oh, did anybody clean in the back? You know, we all tend to clean in the front where we think the Lord is going to come. But he is everywhere. He can see what we did in the back as well, forgetting that. So everybody was, but Swami said, everybody sit in the car, and he started to go to the back of the building. I was a young kid. I was 7 or 8 or 9 years old. So I was very curious. I had a little bit more liberty than the elders who were there. So I jumped out of the car and went from the other side of the building to see, very curious to know where Swami was going. And the other person who was equally curious to know where Swami was going was Professor Kasturi. You will all know Professor Kasturi. He is the person who wrote Swami's Satyam Shivam Sundaram, as a complete biography of Swami, is Swami's biographer, a great and ardent devotee. He also came to see where Swami was going from the other side. Swami had walked further, but we both met at the back of the building, Professor Kasturi and I, and he said, be quiet, we are supposed to be in the car. So both of us stood behind a bush, trying to see what Swami was doing. Swami went straight to the barn where these 2 buffaloes were tied. And he went up there to the buffaloes, and we drew a little closer behind another bush to see what Swami was saying. It seemed as though Swami was talking to these buffaloes. And we could hear Swami was talking to them in Telugu and saying, you 2 water buffaloes, you have worked so hard for me and for all the devotees who came with me. You have gone back and forth, bringing water day after day, all day long till sunset. You have served me and all the devotees who came with me. Thank you very much. And he was patting the cheeks of these water buffaloes, and we could see the tears rolling down the eyes of these buffaloes. And it was as though they were having a very ordinary conversation. They were human, and this Lord was talking to them. They could understand, and he could understand what they were saying with their nodding heads and swishing ears. And Swami kept saying, don't cry. I know I'm going away, but I will be back soon. I will be back to see you next year. Don't cry. And he materialized Vibhuti and put it on the forehead of these 2 buffaloes, thanking them for their seva and compassionately touching their cheek because they were crying, and slowly walked. And he said, hey, you 2 hiding behind the bush, come out. So both Professor Kasturi and I came out, and he said, I told you both to sit in the car. Why are you behind me? And Professor Kasturi, who was a wonderful orator, said, Swami, it is for you to do and for us to see. So we came to see what you were doing. And we both walked. And this incident of this Dayamaya, this compassionate Lord, has really stayed, because it is not just compassion for us human beings, but for compassion to all the creatures that he has created, for all this wonderful creation that he has given us to enjoy. His compassion and love towards them has stayed in my heart since that day as a young child when I was. So we say that is one of the qualities of an avatar. And here is our beloved Swami walking like us, talking like us, but showing through his life how we should lead our lives as a human being. That is why Swami had the courage, I must say, or the only person I have heard who is in a human form who says, my life is my message. I don't think any of us can say that because we have so many faults within us. We make so many mistakes. So it is very difficult for us to say, my life is my message. But Swami has said, my life is my message. And then as he gave his discourses and led his avataric life on this earth, he said, your life must become my message. So I have descended down to your level. Now you must come up to my level. You must grow spiritually and come up to my level so that I can pull you up. I have come for pulling you up from where you are. So this is the beautiful Swami that I experienced. One of the qualities, even Dr. Hislop says in one of his books, he says, they're born with supernatural powers. They can control everything. I started off this talk by saying how he can control the elements. They can do anything as they will. Their will prevail. They can do whatever they will. It will happen immediately. One of the wonderful incidents that I would like to share with you all today is when I was in the summer course in Brindavan in Bangalore. Swami had given me a special badge because I was not eligible for the summer course because I was not yet in college. It was meant for college students from all over India. In the first summer courses, the summer courses were conducted by Swami for students from all over India. All the states would send about 10 or 12 students who were selected by writing essays. They were selected and then they all came to Bangalore. And the summer course was a month long, in the month between mid-May to mid-June. And I was not eligible for it because I was still not in college. My father was one of the people who was in the selection board. So my father said that I cannot write an essay. I am in the selection board. You're not in college, so you're not eligible. So when I went to Parthi, much before the summer course, I requested Swami and I said, Swami, I want to attend the summer course, but I'm not in college. So Swami laughingly turned to my father and said, you are in the selection board. Why didn't you select your daughter? So my father said, that's why I didn't select her, Swami. Because I am in the selection board and I cannot. She's not in college. So Swami very sweetly patted my cheek and said, don't worry, I will give you the badge myself. You come and attend it. Don't worry about your father. I will give you the badge. So I had the fabulous good fortune of Swami giving me the badge to attend the summer course. And Swami, his name is truth. That is one of the qualities of an avatar. He is truth itself. So Swami's name itself is Satyanarayana, Satya Sai Baba. His truth himself, the truth, the ultimate truth itself, which has come down. But even in a worldly way, when he has given a word to somebody, we may think he is delaying, but he will keep his word. So he gave me his word that he will give me a badge in the month of March. The summer course was in May. I was in 10th grade. I was not in college. And every evening after school, I used to go and sit in Brindavan and I would watch Swami, especially in the end of April, distributing badges, the VIP badges, the guest badges, the observer badges, some student badges. Every day Swami would come out with a basket and he would distribute the badges. Every day he would see me there, but he never gave me a badge. Every day I would wait and say, maybe tomorrow, maybe tomorrow. And I would keep telling my father, who had the good fortune to be behind Swami all the time, go inside to Swami's room. And Swami went inside, I would say, please, Daddy, ask Swami. Please ask him. Swami has told me, you don't have to give the badge, but Swami has told me he'll give me the badge. Please. My father said, no, I cannot ask. If he has told you, he has to give it to you. I cannot ask. My father was a very strict, sincere, disciplined person. He didn't believe in asking for favors from Swami for his personal gain. So he said, I cannot ask. So every day I would come home and cry to my mother, but Swami promised me, my mother said. We don't understand Swami's words. You have to have faith and wait. So every day went by. Finally, the summer course was to start on May 21st. May 20th came and nothing had happened. So I came home that day. I was a young girl, a teenager. And I said, oh, why did he name himself Satya Sai Baba? He told me he will give me the badge, but he's not keeping his word to me. And I cried and I told Mama, my mother said, don't talk like that. You don't know the reason. You don't understand what Swami said. I said, no, he should not have told me. He could have told me that you are not eligible, you are not in college. I would have accepted that. But he said, I will give it to you, but he has not given it to me. And I was very, very upset because many times our mind, however much we have faith, sometimes we are filled with doubts. And I was still young and I was a teenager. So I kept crying. And it was about 9:30 in the night. We had finished dinner. And I was just in my room and quite upset by the whole thing when the phone rang. And Dr. Sundar Rao, who was the state president of Karnataka at that time in India, he called and asked my mother if he could speak to me. So I went to the phone and he said, Geeta, I'm just coming home from Vrindavan. Swami says that you are scolding him a lot. There is omnipresence, omniscient, omnipotent Swami. Again and again in my life, I have experienced that. Swami said, you're scolding him a lot. In fact, Swami said that he should change his name to Asatya Sai Baba instead of Satya Sai Baba. What is this? You're saying all this? Uncle asked me, Sundarao uncle. I felt very ashamed at this. So I said, no, uncle, I was very upset. I'm really sorry. I don't know why I said that. So he said, no, Swami has said that he has been very busy, but he has given a badge. If you come early tomorrow morning at 8:30, I have the badge with me. You come with your clothes and your suitcase. You can stay for a month. Swami has given the badge. So I was in seventh heaven, suddenly from depression to delight. So this is how the mind is a mad monkey. It swings like a pendulum from depression to delight based on our own senses, what we keep feeding our senses. So I went the next day and entered the summer course and I was very happy. And as we were all getting in the line, getting into the auditorium, Swami came and said, I am not a Satya Sai Baba, I am Satya Sai Baba. Did you get the badge? I said, Swami, I'm so sorry. He said, no, now you go and sit down and listen properly. So I attended the summer course. As I was going through the summer course, one of the lectures that I had to attend was, which we all had to attend, was a topic was non-violence. So ahimsa, that was the topic that day. And a lot of the wonderful speakers in the summer course gave many talks. And we used to make notes because at the end of summer course, there was going to be an exam for all of us. And the following day, my friend and I, Srilata and I, we sat down and we were going over our notes. Did you write down this? Did you write down that? And we were writing. We were sitting in the grass in Vrindavan on the side where there was a whole lot of grass there. We were sitting and discussing our notes. And as we were talking about our notes, I was just pulling the grass out because we were sitting on the grass. Hands would not stay still. Pulling the grass out, and as we were talking, there was a nice pile of grass there. And my friend, who is a very good friend of mine, she suddenly said, hey, Geeta, we are discussing non-violence. What are you doing? You're pulling all the grass out, she said. I said, oh, Don't be a goody two-shoes. It's just grass. Oh, who is worrying about all this non-violence? This is just grass. I was just playing with it. That's all I said. And we continued to talk, and the conversation was over. It became late. We went for dinner, and then we had to go to our respective state rooms where we were staying. So we finished. The following day, the routine every day in the summer course was we had to get up at 4:30 and go for Omkaram and Suprabhatam. 21 Oms in the morning at 4:30. After that, there would be Suprabhatam and then Jyoti meditation. And then we would all go back and have our breakfast. So that was the routine. And 4:30 in the morning we used to go. I was not used to all this meditation and all of that. Like I said, I was a 10th grader, young girl. So I would go and sit at the back of the tent which was constructed behind Swami's building, the old bungalow of Vrindavan, many of you may have seen in the photographs. There was a tent there, and we all had to go there for our Omkaram and Suprabhatam. The actual classes were held in the college auditorium. But the morning Suprabhatam and everything was held behind Swami's building. So my good friend, she would go and sit in the front and attended very sincerely the Omkaram and everything. I, not being such a good student, would go and sit way in the back of this tent, and I was leaning against the bamboo pole, and happily I knew it would take almost 20 to 25 minutes to finish the 21 Omkaram and Suprabhatam and Jyoti meditation. So this was my nice 25 minutes to close my eyes and have a nice nap while everybody was busy doing their Omkaram and Suprabhatam. You know, we forget again and again that he is with us every moment. In fact, there is a beautiful bhajan, is it not? Every moment of the day, please be with me. We ask him to be with us, but we forget that he is with us. This is the unfortunate situation. So I was sitting there, leaning against this pillar, happily dozing off. Suddenly, somebody tapped my back, and I turned around, and there was Swami, just like you can see Swami behind me. He was tapping my back. I turned. He put his finger on his lips and he said, "Don't make any noise. Come out." He pointed outside. Oh, I was so scared. I thought I earned this badge with so much difficulty. In the last moment, Swami trusted me and he gave me this badge. Now, he's going to take it away because he has caught me red-handed, sleeping in Suprabhatam and sleeping in the 21 Omkaram and Jyoti meditation. He said, "Come out." So I came out of the tent. In those days, right next to the bungalow, even now we have in Trai Vrindavan has been built in that place. It's a beautiful rose garden. And it was still dark. There was one light over there at a distance in Swami's bungalow building. It was still dark. It was about 4:35 in the morning. "Come out," he said. And I was thinking, I'm going to be sent home. I have to face the music from my parents for misbehaving. I have started this whole summer course in a very bad way. And now Swami was so happy to give me the badge and he's going to take it. But when he went near the rose bush, Swami said, "Didn't ask me, why were you sleeping?" He said, "What were you doing yesterday?" So immediately I felt good. Oh, this is not about being caught now for sleeping. It's something about yesterday. I looked at him. I didn't know what I had done. I said, "I don't know, Swami." He said, "No, what were you doing yesterday with your friend?" He asked me. I tried to rack my brains. I couldn't remember. And I said, "I don't know, Swami. I was talking to her. That's all." He said, "Oh, you were talking to her? Didn't you say it's just grass?" Oh, I remembered I had pulled out all the grass. And my friend had said that we listened to a non-violence lecture and here you have pulled out all the grass. And I said, "Oh, this is just grass. Did you not say it is just grass?" I said, "Yes, Swami. I pulled out all the grass." He said, "Oh, when you cannot create, how can you destroy like this? Come here. Do you think it is just grass? Is it not a living thing just like you? Does it not feel like you? Does it not feel the pain like you? You think?" He said, "Come here." He said, he took me to a rose bush. There was a whole rose garden there. And he touched a small little bud, a tiny little bud in the rose bush. That bud would take another maybe 8 or 10 days to really bloom into a beautiful flower. But just with a light touch, he touched this rosebud, and right in front of my eyes, like we see these days in a video, but this I am talking if 1973, the rosebud started to grow, become bigger and bigger, plumper and plumper, and the sepals, the green sepals opened, the petals opened, and a beautiful red rose bloomed right in front of my eyes. I was so taken aback. I said, Swami, I can't do that. I said. So Swami looked at me, and with a very sweet smile, he said, why not? Come here. And he took my wrist, and with my finger, he made me touch another tiny little rosebud. And that thing started to grow, become bigger. The sepals opened, the petals opened, and another beautiful rose opened. He said, see, it also has life, but it will respond when you love it the way I love it. You have to love, he said. When you love something, everything in this universe will respond. See how beautiful? When you cannot create, don't destroy, he said. And then he said, stop sleeping in the Omkaram Suprabhatam. Go and sit there and finish the meditation, he said. And said, what a beautiful experience that he gave me of the fact that he can control. He controlled, he moved time and space. That is also a quality of an avatar. He's beyond time and space, and he is able to control it. That bud would have probably taken 10 days to bloom, but he changed the time for that rosebud. He changed the time and space and made it bloom in 1 second, what would have taken probably 1 week to happen. So that is our beloved Swami, who has come down to be at our level, to teach us to love even the small plants which are around us, the small birds and animals around us, and of course, love our fellow human beings, because he is within everyone. And that is how he can be everywhere at one time. He can be in 2 places at the same time. I think I have a little more time to narrate this particular incident that happened to my mother. One of the qualities of an avatar is to be able to be in many places at the same time. They are not restricted to this human body as we are. Of course, the other qualities that I started out saying, he chooses his own parents, they have supernatural powers itself when they are born. In fact, one of the qualities is also beauty. Of course, our Swami was such a beautiful form. All of us who have gone to Parthi, we know when Swami used to come out for darshan, the tiny orange speck, as soon as it came out of that room from his building, all the heads and necks of all the hundreds of devotees sitting there would all turn in one direction and eagerly wait to see that graceful form come. So that is also one of the qualities of an avatar. But the extraordinary quality of being in several places at the same time is also one quality of the 16 kalas, what we call, or the 16 attributes of a Purna avatar, a complete avatar. And our Swami was a Purna avatar. In 1970, Swami asked my mother to go to Europe. There was an Innerville conference there in The Hague, and she was invited to attend that conference. And we went to ask Swami permission whether my mother should go for this program or not. I think 2 incidents are coming to my mind as I speak, but I will tell this incident as well as the other one if time permits. So we went to Parthi with the invitation that my mother had received. My mother and I went, and he called my mother and I into the interview room, and he asked my mother, oh, are you going to Europe? My mother was a housewife, not a very greatly educated lady or anything, but she was an ardent devotee of Swami. And Swami had made her the coordinator for the state of Karnataka for SSC. So she worked very sincerely for Swami. And Swami said, you go. And when you go there, you go and visit a couple of my devotees. Swami had some, devotees in those days. The first few devotees from UK in London, one Mr. Sitaram was there. So he said, go and visit them. I will write a letter to them saying that you are coming. And Swami also gave the names of a couple of other devotees in Holland and other places that my mother was going to go to. So he was speaking, and a very amazing thing happened while we were in the interview room. Bhagavan can come in any form. He's not restricted to one single form that we seem to know. So while we were in that interview room, there were a few other people in the interview room, and Swami was talking to everybody generally, and he looked at one particular lady who was in the interview room, and he said to her, how is the seva activities going on? He asked her. It was still the beginning of Sai centers in those days, in the 70s, late 60s, 69 Satya Sai centers had started in India. And one of the things that Swami had said was that everybody keep aside a handful of rice or wheat flour, whatever we eat at home. And after collecting it for a few days, couple of weeks, gather all the rice from all the devotees, cook some prasad and distribute it to the poor people to do seva. Every time you cook at home, set aside a handful of rice. This was the instructions Swami had given. So everybody was following it, and everybody was doing Narayan seva or feeding some of the poorer people in their community with this rice or whatever they had collected. So he asked this lady, how is the seva going? So this lady had the position. She said, Swami, I am the seva coordinator of our center. It's going very well, Swami. We started just feeding 8 or 10 people. Now we are feeding hundreds of people, Swami. We are doing a very good job, Swami. So that is where the first mistake, the ego came. I am the coordinator. We are doing very well. It is for Swami to tell us how well we are doing. Swami just asked, how is the seva going? And if she had said, with Swami's grace, people are bringing the rice and we are feeding, it would have been fine probably. And then in that seva process, she said, Swami, the seva is going so well. You must come and visit us and see how well we are doing our seva. Second mistake, you must come and visit us and see how well we are doing, she said. So she kept on. Every time Swami would talk to someone and he would pause, she would say, Swami, please come, Swami, to our state. Please come and see our seva, Swami. It's good. Swami ignored her once or twice or 3 times even. And my mother and I, we looked at each other. We had seen Swami many times and we knew that today this lady will become the learning tool for us. Because she was going on asking Swami. Swami was ignoring her and she kept on asking. Finally, Swami looked at her and he said, I have already come to your place. Swami said, I have come to your place. So this lady's third mistake, she said, she forgot that he is an avatar. He can be in any place at any time, any number of times. She said, no, Swami, you have not come to our place. Swami said, no, I have come to your place. No, Swami, please come, Swami. She was asking with lot of love and devotion, please come, Swami, you have not come to our place. So Swami, who was smiling, he just looked at her and said, you want me to come to your place to see the seva? What kind of seva do you do? He said, Swami, we collect the rice and we cook for a lot of people. So then Swami said, what kind of rice do you use for seva? Swami, good rice, Swami, we use. So, no, what kind of rice? Tell me, Swami asked again. Good rice we are using, Swami. Very good rice we are cooking. And the ladies, then Swami said, no. 2 rupees rice. This is, we are talking about the 70s. 2 rupees rice for seva, 5 rupees rice for family. The rationed rice you are keeping aside for the seva and you are using the good rice for your family. Is it not? This lady was taken aback. She said, no, no, Swami, everybody is bringing good rice. Swami said, I am not talking about everybody. I am talking about you. Don't you do this in your house? Again, the lady said, no, Swami, I don't. And Swami's expression changed from this loving, sweet, Dayamaya. He said, I have told you, I have come to your place. I have come. Wait, he said. And he went into the inner room of the interview room, and he came out with a red cloth which was tied into a bag. And he brought it out and he said, I came and said, Mother, give me rice. I was a beggar. Did you not give that beggar in front of your house this bag, this red cloth filled with the rice that you had kept aside for Narayana Seva? Did you not give this bag to that beggar? And he brought the bag out. It was not a bag, actually. It was a red cloth which had been tied to look like a bag. Did you not give? And this lady had such a look of shock and she started to cry. She said, yes, Swami, I gave it to a beggar. He said, you think I am not in that beggar who came to your house and asked for help? You gave this rice and you are telling me that I have not come to your place? I have come to your place, he said. Everybody in the interview room, we were all stunned into silence. And we said, Swami, you must forgive us. He said, when you do seva, don't forget that you are the giver. I am in you. I am the receiver. I am in the heart of the receiver as well. Don't do seva, one type of seva for your house, one type of seva for others. Treat everybody equally, he said. And I know I started with Europe. So in this interview room, Swami gave my mother the permission to go to Europe. So she went to Europe and she had spent, and Swami gave her some very strange advice to my mother, we felt at that time. No word of the avatar is wasted. He told my mother, Kamalama, you're going for the first time out of India. You're traveling by yourself. 2 ladies are going with you. 3 ladies were going together. You go, but be very careful. You're only 3 ladies going for the first time. When you go, wherever you stay, whosever house you stay, find out where the door is when you go to bed in the night properly, where the door leads, where the outside door leads out of the house. Check what type of windows they have. Check all these things because you're in a strange place. It's not like India. It will be different. The doors and windows there are all different. You check before you go to bed. Don't worry though. I will always be with you. You go and come. Don't be afraid. I will come with you. I'll go with you. I'll come back with you, he said. So my mother was happy. She was very excited also. It was her first trip out of the country to a European, to go to Europe. So we came home. My mother did all her visa and everything. And she left and she traveled to the conference and other places. Her last stop actually was a place in Sweden, Malmö, where Swami had asked her to go. There was a Swedish gentleman who was a Sai devotee in those days. I forget his name now. I have written it down somewhere. So my mother and these 2 ladies were supposed to stay. The 2 ladies had their own friends in Sweden. My mother was supposed to stay in this Sai devotee's house. So when she arrived in Sweden, of course, she didn't know the language. This Sai devotee, this gentleman, he was a doctor. He met these ladies at the airport, dropped the other 2 ladies at their address, took my mother to his house, and with little bit of broken English, he said, you stay in the house. He showed her the kitchen, whatever vegetarian food that he had, he showed her. He said, I will go and stay in my son's house, which is just down the street. You stay here comfortably by yourself. Don't worry, because he was a Sai devotee, maybe because my mother was a lady had come by herself. He did not want to make her feel uncomfortable by being in the house. So he went to the son's house. So my mother had dinner with him and everything. And at about 8:30, 9 o'clock, he went away. He showed her the bedroom and everything. And that bedroom where she had to go, there were about 2-3 steps leading up to the bedroom. And he said, you rest, I will come in the morning for coffee, he told her at 7 o'clock. So the gentleman went away. She checked. Swami had told her, find out where the switch is, electric switch is, everything you should find out before going to bed. Swami had said. So she saw that there was a switch. She went to bed. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, she could not breathe. And she woke up finding it very, very difficult to breathe. And it looked like there was some sort of a leakage. She could smell something like gas. And she could not breathe at all. So she tried to get up, but she was very dizzy because of some leakage it looked like in the house. So she went, but that night, though Swami had told her, check the windows and doors, she was very tired and jet lagged. She had gone to bed. She had not checked to see how to open the window. So somehow she managed to get to the window. She tried to open it, but this was her first trip to a foreign country. Somehow the window was a slide up window or something. She could not open it. She didn't know how to open this window. She felt as though the window was coming on her, and she herself had inhaled this gas. So she was very uncomfortable and dizzy, and she couldn't open the window. And she somehow managed to get back to the bed, and she realized that she could not breathe. And as we say in my language in Kannada, Sankata Bandare Venkata Ramana, we call out his name when we are in trouble. So she started to say, Sai Ram, Swami, you gave me permission to go. Why do I have to die in this foreign country, somewhere in Sweden? My husband and my children are there in Bangalore. Why did you send me here? I didn't follow your instructions. I don't know how to open this window. And she tried, and she was feeling very dizzy. She couldn't get up to get to the door. What am I to do? Swami, Sai Ram, she started to say. And suddenly she saw that the bedroom door opened and the 2 steps were there. The door opened and 2 steps, Swami climbed and came and stood there in the room and said, Kamlamma, why are you getting so scared? See, no gas leak, nothing. You're okay now. I told you to check the windows. You didn't check the windows. See, nothing. And she said, Swami, see, I told you I'll be with you. Are you doubting me? See, I'm here with you. Go to sleep now. You will be okay. Swami said, and he just showed her Abhay Hasta, his blessing palm. And for 2 seconds he was there, made this conversation, and he disappeared. After a while, my mother fell asleep and she got up, and she didn't know whether this was a dream or really she has hallucinated. Was Swami really physically here? But the room was fine and she was feeling fine. And this gentleman came at 6:30 at coffee time, as he had promised, this doctor. And he said, how are you? Good rest and everything in the night, in his broken English. And then my mother said, no, I got up in the night. There seemed to be some sort of a gas leakage, but I don't know. Now it seems okay. So he said, oh, really? Where? He said, in the bedroom. So he immediately went to the heating, which was a gas heating in their house. And when he went there, his face became pale and he saw that there was leakage, and the tube which was connecting to this gas vent had broken, and there was gas and it was open. So he looked at my mother and said, how did you survive? The gas has leaked. There is no gas in this. How did you survive? So my mother said, Swami, Sai Ram, Swami. He said, Swami help you? Swami help you? She said, yes, because he was a Sai devotee. He said, oh my goodness, this gas has leaked. And he called the people to check it. And sure enough, they said this has malfunctioned in the night. There was a gas leakage. They could find in other parts of the house, they could find the remnants of the carbon monoxide, which had was spread all over the house. My mother was so scared, and it was almost her last country that she was visiting. She was going to come back to India in the next couple of days. So she didn't write to us. And then she arrived in Bangalore. None of us knew that this had happened. We were very happy. I was a young girl. We were happy to have my mother back. And as soon as my mother landed, we came home. She took a shower and everything. And she said, I have to go to Vrindavan. I have to go to Vrindavan. She didn't tell us anything because still in her mind, she was wondering, did this really happen to me? Did Swami really come somewhere in Malmö, Sweden? So we went to Vrindavan that day. My mother and I were sitting. My father came behind Swami as usual for darshan. And as Swami drew near us in the Vrindavan Darshan line, he came and he shook his head and said, "What happened in Malmo, Sweden, Kamlamma?" He asked. She said, "Swami." And he said, "Oh, you sent me so far away. My husband and children are over there. Why did you send me here? Where are you, Swami? Didn't you call out to me?" "Yes, Swami. Didn't I come climbing the 2 steps, opening the door? You saw me there. I told you. You saw where the switch was, but you didn't check the windows and the door. Didn't I tell you? And then the room became cool and you were able to breathe again. Yes or no?" he asked. "Swami," my mother started to cry. "Swami, yes, Swami, I saw you, but I didn't know whether I really saw you or it was a..." I said, "No, no, I was there. I was there with you. I told you I would be with you." He said, "But Swami, you were in Bangalore, that's why." He said, "For Swami, Bangalore is one room, Malmo, Sweden is another room. I'm everywhere, Kamlamma. I'm everywhere," he said. So that was another experience of my mother that we all went through, which is another wonderful divine quality of an avatar. So coming back to Avatar Declaration Day, he himself, he has told us, "I have come down to be with you so that you can come up to me, so you can raise yourself to come up to me." So having talked about all these beautiful qualities, there are many more qualities. I'm sure many of you have read about it. I cannot talk about all the incidents for all of these 16 qualities, as they say, but I hope I have been able to share a few of these divine avataric qualities that I have experienced of our beloved Bhagwan. Having said this, wishing you all a wonderful day. I will say Sai Ram to all of you brothers and sisters of New Zealand. Please have a healthy and safe time and enjoy the rest of your days. Thinking of Swami, our beloved Swami. Jai Sai Ram.
Thank you, Sister Geeta, for sharing your wonderful experiences with us. I'm sure you had all the devotees in New Zealand spellbounded and mesmerized by your stories. You brought back memories for me of how I used to fall asleep during Omkar and Suprapadam in the hostel at Anantapur College. Also, a time when I plucked flowers from a devotee's house in the ashram to make a card for Swami, and he showed me that it was not the right action. We are truly grateful to you for sharing your lovely experiences and reminding us of Swami's omnipresence and omnipotence, and also sharing the true meaning of his words, "My life is my message." I pray that with Swami's grace, we will be good messengers of his life and message. Sister Geeta, on behalf of the Satyasai Organization of New Zealand, I wish to thank you for taking time to address the devotees in New Zealand on this auspicious day of Avatar Declaration Day. Once again, a very heartfelt thank you from all of us in New Zealand.
Thank you.
Sairam, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. May Swami's love and blessings be with you. Sairam.
Sai Ram. Sai Ram.